Have you ever been so deeply immersed in a creative project that the rest of the world completely vanished around you? Hours fly by like minutes, and every decision you make feels completely effortless, intuitive, and perfectly executed. Psychologists call this peak human experience the flow state, but neuroscientists view it as a profound chemical reset of the brain. For decades, people believed that high performance required pushing the brain to its absolute maximum limit of electrical activity. Like and subscribe to the channel visual link if you want to master your own biology and unlock higher levels of creative output. Modern neuroimaging proves that the exact opposite is happening when you enter this zone of ultimate creative focus. Your brain actually begins to quiet down through a fascinating neurological process known as transient hypofrontality. The prefrontal cortex, which acts as your brain's loud corporate manager, temporarily goes offline to save energy. This is the specific region responsible for your inner critic, your self-doubt, and your constant sense of past and future. When the prefrontal cortex relaxes, that nagging voice in your head telling you that your work isn't good enough completely vanishes. With the inner critic silenced, your brain frees up massive amounts of computational energy for pure, unfiltered creativity. You stop overthinking your brush strokes, your lines of code, or your animation keyframes, and simply begin executing them flawlessly. Your perception of time distorts completely because the brain tracking network is no longer measuring the passing seconds. This profound psychological shift is driven by a precise and potent cocktail of 5 distinct neurochemicals working in perfect harmony. The first chemical to flood your system is dopamine, which sharpens your attention and drives you to explore new ideas. Dopamine spikes your curiosity and acts as a searchlight, helping you notice subtle patterns and connections you would normally miss. Next comes norepinephrine, which increases your heart rate, wakes up your nervous system, and locks your eyes onto the task. Together, dopamine and norepinephrine create a state of high-energy engagement that makes the creative challenge feel incredibly exciting. If you are enjoying these neuroscience breakdowns, make sure to hit that like button to help Visual Link grow. As you push deeper into the work, your brain releases endorphins, which mask the physical strain and fatigue of long working sessions. This is immediately followed by anandamide, which is a chemical named after the Sanskrit word for bliss or divine happiness. Anandamide dilates your blood vessels and amplifies lateral thinking, which is your ability to connect completely unrelated concepts together. Finally, as you coast through the state, your brain produces serotonin, which leaves you with a deep sense of peace and satisfaction. This specific neurochemical blend is incredibly rare and cannot be replicated by any synthetic drug or stimulant on Earth. It creates a highly addictive feeling of effortless mastery that makes flow state the ultimate prize for creators and innovators. But you cannot simply sit at your desk and wait for this chemical wave to randomly wash over your biology. Flow is not an accidental stroke of mystical inspiration, but a predictable state of consciousness governed by strict biological triggers. To activate this state on command for your creative work, you must follow a deliberate step-by-step neurochemical protocol. Phase 1 of the protocol requires you to eliminate every single source of cognitive friction and micro-distraction from your environment. Every time your phone buzzes or a notification pops up on your screen, your prefrontal cortex instantly snaps back into high alert. Even a 2-second glance at a text message destroys your focus and resets the 20-minute timer required to build deep momentum. You must aggressively block your digital borders, put your phone in another room, and close every unrelated browser tab. Phase 2 requires you to identify and target what scientists call the challenge-to-skill ratio sweet spot. If a creative task is too easy, your brain gets bored, drops its dopamine levels, and searches for a distraction to stay awake. If the task is too difficult, your brain panics, releases cortisol, and triggers a stress response that paralyzes your creativity. You must find the delicate friction point where the challenge is roughly 4% higher than your current skill level. The task should feel slightly uncomfortable and demanding, but entirely possible if you stretch your capabilities to the limit. Phase 3 involves defining incredibly clear micro-goals for your specific working session before you ever touch your tools. If you sit down with a vague goal, like working on my project, your brain wastes precious energy trying to figure out what to do next. Instead, you must give your mind a precise, immediate target, like animating the first 3 seconds of this character walk cycle. Clear goals eliminate confusion and provide your nervous system with immediate feedback loops, which trigger more dopamine release. Phase 4 is the transition into the struggle phase, which is the most misunderstood part of the entire flow cycle. Before you feel the effortless ease of flow, you will almost always experience a wave of intense frustration and mental block. Your brain is burning massive amounts of energy trying to load the problem into its working memory and map out solutions. Don't forget to subscribe to Visual Link and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly creative strategy videos. Most creators mistake this uncomfortable friction for a sign that they lack talent or should quit for the day. In reality, this cognitive struggle is the exact biological signal required to trigger the next phase of the cycle, which is release. When the frustration peaks, you must deliberately step away from the screen for 5 minutes and let your mind completely relax. Take a few deep breaths, walk across the room, or stare out the window without looking at any digital input. This sudden drop in conscious effort signals your brain to release nitric oxide, which flushes out the stress chemicals. The moment you sit back down and re-engage with the task, the latent dopamine and anandamide take over your neural pathways. Suddenly, the gears click into place, the friction melts away, and you glide effortlessly into the deep creative flow state. You will find yourself making connections, solving bugs, and generating ideas at a pace that feels almost supernatural. To maximize this state, you should plan to stay in the zone for at least 90 to 120 minutes without interruption. Once the session concludes, you enter the final phase of the cycle, which is deep neurological recovery and integration. Flow state is a high-yield, high-energy state that completely drains your brain's store of neurotransmitters and glycogen. You cannot live in flow permanently without burning out your nervous system and destroying your baseline focus. You must respect the recovery phase by getting high-quality sleep, hydrating properly, and stepping away from high-stimulus digital feeds. Mastering this cycle turns creativity from a frustrating game of luck into a highly reliable and repeatable scientific process. You stop being a passive victim of creative blocks and become the active conductor of your brain's internal chemistry. The next time you face a massive project, don't rely on raw willpower or wait for the perfect mood to strike you. Build your environment, balance the challenge, clear your goals, push through the struggle, and let the neurochemistry do the rest. The blank canvas isn't a wall designed to keep you out, but an invitation to step into your highest self. Turn off the noise, clear your mind, and unlock the absolute peak of your creative human potential, so hit that like and subscribe button for Visual Link.